Did you want to be behind the podium, or are you okay with being out, like in this area?
What do you prefer? What would you prefer?
Well, it doesn't matter.
Okay. I can sort of be near the podium, I suppose.
Okay.
But you'll just hand the mic to me.
I'm gonna hand the mic to you. Right. Right.
Intro to the Asia Pacific region in general. So it's not just China. We're doing stuff Thailand, other areas where there's development. But we sort of use the state of Maryland to help us get to that point. It's called the Maryland Center for China.
What is clicking?
It's one of the things I'll talk about. It's been huge help. It's no longer with the state.
I need to bring my children in here and have you guys train them. That when you just walk up to the front, hush.
It is pretty remarkable.
I know, right? We're good? Okay. Greetings and welcome to this second annual Montgomery County Small Business Day. My name is Kelly Leonard with Taylor Leonard Corporation, and I have the privilege of being your moderator today. To kick off today's event, I'd like to welcome Mr. Merlin Reinecke. He is the Executive Director with Montgomery Community Media.
Thank you and good morning. Welcome to Small Business Day in Montgomery County. I am Merlin Reinecke, Executive Director of Montgomery Community Media, and we're delighted to be hosting today's event. So thank you so much for coming. You know, as you know, small business is the lifeblood of jobs and growth here in Montgomery County. And as the top creators of new jobs in this innovation economy, small businesses demand all the support that we can offer them. So that's why we're here today, to learn about best business practices for small businesses, new technologies, doing business across the globe, as well as minority and women-owned businesses here in the county, and interacting with our political leaders in Rockville, Annapolis, and Washington, D.C. So we at Montgomery Community Media are excited to be working with our partners to facilitate today's event, and which is being recorded and made available on our TV channels and our website in the coming weeks. So if you have not been here before, welcome, and if you have been here before, welcome back. We at MCM are America's #1 public education and government media organization, and we serve all the residents of Montgomery County. So we hope you get to know us during the course of the day, and we hope you have a productive day here as well. Again, welcome, and thank you for coming.
And I would be remiss if I didn't thank our sponsors today. That is the Columbia Bank. We have Ralph King and Mila Global who are here today, and so definitely make sure that you thank them. This event is being made possible in part by their very generous contributions today. And so I'd also like to invite up, we've got a handful of our distinguished congressmen that are here today joining us, and so I'd like to turn the floor over to Congressman Mr. Chris Van Hollen.
Thank you, Kelly. It's great to be here, and I want to thank Montgomery Community Media for organizing this, Columbia Bank and other sponsors, and all of you who are participating today as we promote small businesses in our community. And I want to thank the panelists who are here with us this morning and others throughout the day because, as Merlin indicated, and all of you know, small businesses are the heart and soul of business in our community. And it's important that we do everything we can to create an environment where small businesses can be created, grow, and thrive. And that means working together as partners in many different ways at the local level with the Montgomery County Executive and Council, at the state level with the governor and the General Assembly, and I know we have someone from DBED here, and of course at the federal level. And I'm very pleased to be here with my friend and partner in the United States Congress, John Delaney, and you're going to be hearing from John. He's been a terrific addition to our congressional delegation, where we work together with Senator Mikulski, Senator Cardin, and other members of the delegation in what we call Team Maryland, trying to work on a bipartisan, nonpartisan basis to try to do what we can to support our local businesses here in Montgomery County and throughout the state of Maryland. And when it comes to the federal role, there are a number of aspects, right? But one of the main agencies that is responsible for promoting small business throughout Maryland, in this region and the country, is the Small Business Administration. And I'm very pleased that Antonio Doss is going to be joining us as well. He's here. And I see Antonio all over our community. So I really think it's important that you know that he and the Small Business Administration are there as a resource to all of you. And the Small Business Administration can be helpful in a couple important ways, right? One is to try and provide greater access to capital and low-interest loans for qualifying businesses. And they have a number of programs, and it's very important that you understand how all of them work. And so I'm really pleased that they're with us today. And that, of course, goes for small businesses who are trying to engage in the private sector markets only, or in the public sector markets. Public sector markets brings me to the second area where Small Business Administration is important, and federal agencies generally, which is in federal contracting. And as they say in real estate, location, location, location. And we're very fortunate here in Montgomery County and the state of Maryland to be in the backyard, in the neighborhood of the federal government. And as a result of that, the federal government spends lots of money on goods and resources in our state, right? I mean, the federal government purchases goods and services across the country, but because of our location and because of the resourcefulness of our businesses, Maryland is number 4 in the country in terms of the total amount of purchase of goods and services by the federal government, right? So you got big states like California, like Texas. Virginia's a bigger state, and they're also next to Washington, D.C. But we're number 4 overall, and we're number 3 per capita in terms of federal government purchase of goods and services. And so to the extent that you can familiarize yourself with the process that the federal government uses for buying goods and services, it's a benefit to everybody, right? It's a benefit to the taxpayer if we have competition that gets us a good deal. It's a benefit to the agencies to get quality goods and services. It's obviously a benefit to small businesses, and it's a benefit to our local economy. So I would do your best to try and figure out how to participate in that system, and today you're going to have an opportunity to do that as well. Look, there are lots of opportunities in this region. We've got a growing cybersecurity sector. We've got a lot of technology companies, biotech, as well as all the companies that help provide them with services to help their daily operations. And so the key is to have that good idea, that spark of a good idea that you as entrepreneurs have, and nurture that idea. And we are there to do our best to try to help you. And I look forward to continuing to work with the small business community and the business community here in Montgomery County and throughout the state of Maryland. I know John Delaney does as well. He has a business background, and so we look forward to working with all of you to make sure that we continue to grow and prosper in this community. And the secret to that is making sure that everybody who has the desire, the energy, the spirit, and a good idea, and the willpower and energy to get it done can have that opportunity to start and grow a business. And we're relying on all of you to do just that. So again, thank you all for participating and everybody who helped make today happen. So all right, I will now turn it back over to Kelly. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Congressman Van Hollen. As he mentioned, Congressman Delaney has a business background. As a matter of fact, I had the pleasure of working very closely with Congressman Delaney back in 1998. October 13th, 1998 was the day that I met John Delaney. So he was an executive with Healthcare Financial Partners, and I mean, I just watched the way that he ran this operation and really admired just the way his entrepreneurial spirit and how he pushed that spirit down to the workforce to really identify ways that we could really help the business grow. And so, you know, it's no mistake that he's a friend of small business, having been there himself. And so it's my pleasure to introduce and bring up Congressman John Delaney.
Thank you, Kelly. I guess it was 16 years ago. I didn't realize back then the employment laws allowed us to hire people who were 12 years old, but it's great to see you again. And it's great to be here with my colleague and friend, Chris Van Hollen. And everyone knows this, but I always feel an obligation to say this. You know, Chris is clearly one of the absolute leaders in the Congress of the United States of America. And it's great to have an opportunity to partner with him in Montgomery County. Because I get to see Chris in two dimensions, both in his leadership role in the Congress and also here in our community. So we've all been very privileged to have Chris Van Hollen representing us for a long time, and he's really helped me a lot as I transition into Congress. And I did transition from the business world, and I was a small business owner and entrepreneur at one point. So I kind of understand the range of emotions that small business owners and entrepreneurs go through. At one moment, maybe at 8:30 in the morning, it's the most exhilarating, wonderful, fabulous experience in the world. And then by 9:05, it's incredibly, almost overwhelming with how stressful it is. And such is the roller coaster of the entrepreneur and small business owner. But it's really a wonderful asset that this country has. We all know the statistics about how many jobs are created by small businesses in this country, an overwhelming majority of the jobs. And I am of the view that that will continue in the future and, in fact, accelerate if you look at the way our economy is starting to shape. But it is really unique to this country. You go around the world and you don't see nearly, I mean, some parts you do, particularly some of the new developing countries, but of countries of scale who are more established, you don't kind of see the small business culture that we have in this country. And it's really important that we think about that as policymakers because it's really one of the great assets this country has. People really do like starting businesses here. And even if they've started a business and it was successful and they sold it, they go and start another business. And that you see that all the time in this country. People continue to start businesses even after they have no more economic incentive to do it. So it's a really great thing. And we as policymakers have to be mindful of preserving it, because the one thing I had the privilege in business to travel around the world, and the one thing you see when you go to countries where government and the private sector work well together, in other words, they're not fighting and screaming all the time, but they're actually working together, you see really good economic outcomes. And that's so important for us all to remember, and that's why these forums are so great. I want to thank everyone for organizing it, the Small Business Administration, all of our panelists here today. In doing it. So Chris touched on many of the important components of what's available to small businesses, and his point about contracting is just spot on. And he also mentioned the cyber component. I just want to expand upon that a little bit because I think he really touched on an important point. Maryland is a singular state as it relates to cyber. We have assets that are really unmatched. Some of our assets, like the NSA, people aren't so crazy about, but these things are still really important for thinking about cyber. And I personally think if I was in the private sector, I'd really be looking at cyber as a business opportunity, because if you think about the information technology business globally, right, anything that touches IT, it's $3 trillion is spent on IT around the world. And people expect in 10 years that will grow at about 7 or 8% a year, which has been the growth rate for IT for a long time. And so we'll have, call it a $6 trillion kind of cyber business globally in 10 years. $6 trillion IT business. Right now, we spend about $60 billion on cyber globally. So that's how much money companies spend on kind of protecting their data. People think that companies should spend 10% on their IT budget on cyber, right? And right now, we're spending 2%. So if the IT market grows to $6 trillion in 10 years and people actually start spending the right amount of money on cyber so you don't have the Target break-ins and all those kind of things, it'll be a $600 billion global business. In other words, it'll grow tenfold in 10 years. And Maryland has an opportunity to capture a huge amount of that growth. And so if I was a small business owner, no matter what my business was, whether I was in the IT or even if I was in the janitorial services, I'd be focusing on getting cyber companies as clients in one way or another, because I think it's a really big growth opportunity for this state. And therefore, it's a really big business opportunity, I think, for all of you, no matter what your business are. Because as we all know, if an industry grows, all the businesses that surround the business grow. And that's why we have to get out of this kind of false choice between big businesses and small businesses. We actually want both in this country. We want our big businesses to compete successfully in a global marketplace. And then we want our small businesses to have a level playing field, have lots of opportunities, and to contract successfully with those big businesses. These are both kind of virtuous outcomes. And when we think about our role as policymakers, I think there's a couple things we have to be mindful of. One is we have to make sure that environment exists, which is one of the reasons I've been a big proponent of increasing the infrastructure investment in this country, because I think it's a huge opportunity to make the country more competitive and help big businesses. I think a lot of the companies that will do the infrastructure work tend to be small businesses. So I think it's virtuous for both ends of those barbells, if you will. It's good for our big companies. It'll help them compete in a global marketplace, and it'll create a huge amount of opportunities for small businesses. So that's a portfolio of federal issues. I know Chris is a huge supporter of this. Many of our colleagues in the Congress are big supporters of increasing our investment in infrastructure. I think it's something the federal government, partnering with states and local governments, really should have as our central and primary domestic economic priority for the next 10 years. But the other thing we have to do is we have to make sure small businesses have an opportunity to compete. And that's where the regulatory question comes in. And I do think as a nation, we do have to look at the regulatory framework we have. Because as someone who ran a small business and that fortunately became a big business, regulations really hurt small businesses disproportionately. Because big businesses can deal with regulations, right? In fact, regulations often protect big businesses. They protect incumbents, and they discourage kind of entrepreneurship. And I believe we need strong regulations around the environment and other things that are really important, but we really do as a country, and the federal government needs to be looking at making sure there's not duplicative and burdensome regulations. Talking about credit, the SBA obviously is an incredibly important provider of credit, as is our banking system. Our banking system is actually in really good shape. Really, really good shape right now, in my opinion. But you don't see banks lending quite as much as they could be. Part of that is there's still a little rocking from the crisis, if you will. I mean, this was a pretty scary moment for a lot of financial institutions because I was in the banking business, and it was really scary. So part of it is they're adjusting to that. But part of it is a really tough regulatory environment for banks. So there's an example of how some of this affects small business. So it seems to me, and then I'll step off the stage here, we have to focus on the cultural aspect, and that's something that I think Maryland could do a better job at. If you go to California, you know, in California, the heroes are the people who start companies in a garage, right? They're the people that get celebrated. Here, we celebrate public policy, and that's great because public policy is for the common good of all human beings, but we need to have a little bit more celebration of commercializing some of that public policy because that'll be good for the local families and the economy here. So I think there's a cultural thing. We have to constantly remind policymakers that we need a good business environment and business should work well together. I think there's a couple of big things government can do in terms of making investments to help small businesses and big businesses. I think we have to look at the regulatory environment and look at cyber. It's a really, really big opportunity for us in Maryland. So again, I want to thank everyone for being here, thank our sponsors, thank Kelly, and of course, once again, I want to thank my great colleague, Chris Van Hollen. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. So cyber is the key. And with that, I'd like to introduce our last individual to provide us with opening remarks, and that's Antonio Das. Antonio is the District Director for the Small Business Administration for the Washington Metro area. And so I'd like for Mr. Das to come up and share his opening remarks as well.
Thank you, Kelly. Good morning, everyone. So let me give you a little bit of background on who SBA is here in the region. We're the Washington Metropolitan Area District Office. So we cover the communities in Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C., Prince George's, and of course here in Montgomery County. And one of the things I want to acknowledge right up front is that almost everything that we do that is successful because of great partnerships that we have. It's sort of the piece that helps us do the things that we do the way we are able to do them. And so today I also want to acknowledge and thank Kelly and the folks at the Montgomery County Media for being able to put this event together and to be able to have a Small Business Day recognition. I also want to acknowledge and thank the congressman and the folks at Congressman Chris Van Hollen and the Team Maryland for the work that they've been doing. As the congressman said, we keep seeing each other places, and part of that's because he and the other members of the state and local delegation and the federal delegation have been doing a pretty good job of making sure they put small business at the forefront of growing this particular economy. So it's another good example of partnership that we have. We have a new administrator at SBA, Maria Contreras-Sweet, and she's come in with a couple of ideas and some things that she wants us to focus on. And I want to share a few of those with you so that you'll get a sense of kind of where we are now and where we're heading. So one of the points that she's looking for us to do is to really help modernize SBA. And one of the big things people think about SBA for is small business lending. And we do a lot of small business lending here in the region, but we want to be able to do more. We want to be able to reach more small businesses. And one of the things that we're working on right now, and we'll actually implement on July 1, is a new credit scoring model. So if you're looking for an SBA loan and it's $350,000 or less, there's going to be a lot less analytical write-up analysis that's required in order to get your loan, because we're going to use a credit scoring, an SBA credit scoring model, starting July 1. And what that's going to do is going to create quicker turnaround times for loan applicants. So if you're a business owner and you're working with a bank, and that's how you start the SBA loan process, you work with your lender, they'll come to us and we can get your loan approved using our new credit scoring model. We're also putting forward something called SBA One. And SBA One is a way that we're going to actually help the lenders who are making the approvals and the loans for you be able to get those processed quicker by using this new SBA One electronic portal, which will make more efficient operation. So from a modernization perspective, we're really looking at a lot of our technology and driving quicker, better loan decision making. A second area that we're going to be focused on is something called inclusive entrepreneurialism. And I really like this term, because what it says to me is that everybody fits, everybody belongs. We're here to serve all communities. And so we've made it a point here in our office to have an intentional, purposeful effort to ensure that whatever products, services, or other kind of programs that we have are geared so that they reach underserved communities, those that are typically underrepresented in some cases. Sometimes they're low and moderate income communities. They may be diverse economic and ethnic communities. We want to make sure that we're reaching out to all those segments and providing our goods and services and our products to the benefit of that small business community. And I want to acknowledge one of the things that one of our resource partners, the Maryland Small Business and Technology Development Center, did. Last year, they actually initiated a new Maryland Hispanic SBDC program, or Small Business Development Center program, specifically targeting the growing Latino community in entrepreneurialism. So we're looking to do more things to support all communities. Just recently, about 2 weeks ago, we invited into our office members and leaders from ethnic-based chambers of commerce. So in the DC area, if you're here and you don't go other places, sometimes you don't really realize how strong our diverse community is. But we had into our offices members from the El Salvadorian Chamber, from the Asian Chamber, from the Taiwanese American Chamber, from the Black Chamber, and we wanted to find out from those persons what their constituents needed and to make sure that what we were delivering matched the needs of that particular community. And it was a really, really good session. We learned a lot, and the learnings from that actually help us with our strategic planning process. So a third area that our new administrator is really looking for us to work with is this notion of being a market maker. So think about what do you think a market maker might be. It involves helping you get access to contract opportunities. So in the federal government, every year there's $400 to $500 billion in federal contracts that are awarded. And our target is to get 23% of those or more to small businesses. And we're doing a pretty good job of that, but we want to be able to do even more. We're also focused on helping firms get access to the international trade markets, where internationally we're at $2.2 trillion in exports last year. That is a lot of money, $2.2 trillion. So if you're a small business, if you're thinking about how you're going to grow your revenue, how you're going to diversify your revenue, look at the federal marketplace, look at the prime contracting marketplace, and look internationally. Throughout the day, you're going to hear a lot of information, more specifically on all these different topics. And so we're looking forward to you getting a rich learning experience, and I hope that this is a good day for you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Antonio. And as he mentioned, over the course of the day, you will have an opportunity to just tap into and ask a lot of the questions that are relevant to a lot of the programs that he just described. At the end of the day, we'll have a panel that'll be primarily staffed with the SBA resources to go through a lot of those panels and what the SBA resources are available to you as a small business to help you to grow your business. So again, thank you for joining us. Again, thank you to our sponsor, the Columbia Bank, and we look forward to having a rich conversation over the course of the day. Hello and welcome to this panel session that will highlight how small business can benefit from Montgomery County's international trade initiatives. My name is Kelly Leonard with Taylor Leonard Corporation, and I'd like to kick off this session with some brief introductions to our panelists. First, we have Antoine Griffin. Antoine is the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Domestic Operations within the U.S. Department of Commerce, International Trade Administration. Previously, Antoine served as the SBA's Senior Advisor for Field Operations, where he coordinated the development of policies and operating procedures for daily management of SBA's 114 regional and district offices around the country. Next, we have Jessica Reynolds. Jessica is an international trade and investment specialist at the Maryland Department of Business and Economic Development. She's currently serving as regional manager and is responsible for India and Africa for the Office of International Investment and Trade at the Maryland Department of Business and Economic Development. Her responsibilities include marketing the state of Maryland to an international audience, attracting foreign direct investment to the state of Maryland, and assisting Maryland-based companies to export. Next, we have Julie Halstead. Julie is the Vice President of Business Development and Operations at Electro Media Design. This small consulting firm specializes in designing audiovisual and acoustical systems for businesses. Julie is responsible for growing the business domestically and internationally. Prior to joining Electro Media, Julie spent 30 years in the real estate industry, specializing in hospitality and working for real estate investing consulting firms in the DC area as well as in Dallas. Next to her is John Malone. John is General Counsel and Vice President of Quality and Compliance for WTS International Incorporated, one of the world's leading leisure firms based in Rockville that designs, manages, and runs spas for world-renowned hotels, resorts, luxury high-rise buildings, and country clubs. As General Counsel, John provides continuous support for corporate governance, business organization, and international expansion, including the creation of foreign subsidiaries and structuring international transactions. And then we have Shobhana Sharma. She's the president and CEO of Environmental Management Services Incorporated and Millennium Biohaz Services, a Rockville-based firm which specializes in toxic and medical waste disposal, recycling and environmental remediation, and cleanup. Shobhana has over 25 years of professional experience and has directed major government and industry contracts. In addition, Shobhana provides technical oversight in the development and implementation of worker safety, health programs, and training. Shobhana is an active participant in county and state trade missions to India. So welcome, everyone. So I'm going to kick off this panel with a handful of questions. And at the close of the panel, if we have time, we'll open the floor up to questions from you as our audience. And to start us off, I'd like to direct this question to either Jessica or Antoine. From your experience in working with small companies, what are some of the traits shown by companies that have the greatest success for pursuing international business?
I'll go ahead and start. Well, one of the things I see from companies that are really successful in pursuing exporting international markets is that they do familiarize themselves with a lot of the programs that are available to them, such as those that the Congressman already mentioned, through SBA, also through your U.S. Export Assistance Centers, which are part of the Department of Commerce, which Mr. Griffin here will elaborate on, and through the state office and county office as well. I'll touch a little more on our specific programs later on at the state level, but those companies that really look into all of those different programs and use them in tandem and take advantage of those free or low-cost resources, I find really do have some great success besides those traits that already made them successful as small businesses on their own. So that's one thing I would suggest to small companies looking to expand there.
To put a finer point on Ms. Reynolds' comments, I think a couple of things that are unique about Maryland and maybe Rockville and Montgomery County-based businesses as well. One, incredibly innovative, and I think innovative businesses are well positioned, as Congressman Delaney pointed out a few minutes ago, to compete and grow globally. The second is that we have a disproportionate, positively, amount of businesses that have experience doing business with the federal, state, or local governments, as well as in the supply chains of large businesses. And I think those are also things that make small businesses here in Maryland, in this part of the country, particularly unique and more competitive globally, and frankly better positioned to compete and win abroad.
Awesome. So now, Jessica, you mentioned something about free and low-cost services, and so we sort of know what some of the traits are. What are some of the services that are available to support these businesses that are looking to do business abroad?
Absolutely. Well, I'll start with our programs at the state level, of course, since those are the ones I'm most familiar with. I may touch on a couple others. But first of all, we have a grant program at the state level for companies that are looking to export. It's called Export MD, and that's a small grant program targeted to small businesses to help them go out to their first trade show in a new market, or maybe they're already exporting, and it can assist them to explore a new market. So that's one program we have, and to my knowledge, we're the only grant program available to companies in Maryland looking to pursue exporting. We also have a program called FlexX for Flexible Export Assistance, and through that program, companies, both large and small in the state of Maryland, can take advantage of up to 20 hours of assistance through foreign offices that we have around the world. And that can comprise market research to determine if there is a market for your product in a market you've been looking into before you invest the time and money. Or it could be used to help vet and shortlist potential distributors or partners in a country. And touching on contracting, we've even had companies take advantage of that program when they're pursuing a bid or a contract in a foreign country and they need to have that local partnership as a requirement and they don't know how to go about finding that partner. We've assisted them to come up with a short list of partners for projects like that as well. So it is fairly flexible, as the name implies, and we'd be happy to work with companies on a scope of work and doing that. So that's something that's free, 20 hours per year. The grant program is also free. There's a little more work in that in terms of that, doing the application and working with us, but there's no cost to apply for either of those. Besides that, we also do some other services that can benefit companies when we have delegations in, for example, foreign buyer delegations. We try to make sure we invite companies or have some sort of event that's open so that companies can take advantage of meeting with these companies and seeing if there is opportunities for them. We'll also have sometimes have trade missions organized at the state level, different types of events focused on exporting where we try and bring a lot of resources in one place to you. For example, back in November, we had an event focused on doing business in Africa, and we based it here in Montgomery County at the Johns Hopkins campus, and we had, I think, over 200 people come, but we had ambassadors there, we had our partners at the federal level, at the local level, and we had a number of companies who have been exporting as well in specific sectors. So we try to have these types of events based on what we're seeing as the needs of our companies, and you can find information on those events either by staying in touch with myself or my colleagues, and we also have a calendar on our website. So those are some of the things at our level. And I know at the county level, since this is focused on Montgomery County, they have as well a small business navigator. I see Judy Stevenson is in the audience today. And that can be a great resource for you as well to make sure you sort of partner your different levels of government. And the county also does a fairly good job at reaching out on the international side. I believe they actually have a trade mission coming up to India this November. So if anyone's interested in that, you could touch base with myself. We'll probably be partnering with the county on that, or with Judy, who's here today. So.
And so the best place to find out about the grant program as well as the FlexX would be on the website?
On the website, or for those in the audience here today, they can reach out to me while I'm here as well.
Awesome. And then Antoine, in terms of the federal side, some free or low-cost programs?
You know, the federal government, it runs the gamut. I think one of the hallmarks of the National Export Initiative that was launched about 4 years ago now is this no wrong door approach. And we've done, I think, a great job of working with our partners, particularly at the state and local level, to make sure that businesses, whatever their level of acumen, have appropriate resources available. For us, our main portal is export.gov, where you could get started finding out about, particularly about the federal resources available to you. But if you're working with the Small Business Administration, of which my colleague Antonio Das introduced himself earlier, at Maryland, at the state of Maryland, if you're working with your local economic development authority or Chamber of Commerce, there's really no wrong place to start. And I think that what we've seen in terms of everyone working together to partner with program delivery, as well as making more financial assistance programs available. We've seen over the course of the last 5 years that, plus the internet, has just made the cost of market entry, much more cheap. But also, there's a host of resources available to help businesses get started, regardless of where you reside along the continuum of business development. But again, for us at the Department of Commerce, export.gov is usually the first place we recommend folks stop, because there you can get an actual self-assessment or evaluation for just where your business is in terms of your export capabilities, and obviously it points you towards any number of resources both at the federal, state, and local level.
Awesome, thank you. So let's bring Shabana and John and Julie into this conversation. So what would you say, what attribute or attributes do you attribute to your company's success internationally? And let us know also if you've used any of these resources that they've described previously in helping you to reach that international market. So I'll
take that one.
Okay.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. The attribute that I feel is most important in obtaining success when you're starting out in the international market is to be focused. Okay, we are a service company, so it was a little bit more difficult for us as opposed to being a consulting company. Okay, because we had to have people on the ground, trucks, vehicles, some type of infrastructure to do our business. As an IT consultant, somebody in cybersecurity, or what John does, it may be a little bit easier for you than it was for us. We were a participant in Governor O'Malley's trade mission a few years back. We did receive assistance from the U.S. Department of Commerce, from the state of Maryland, and also locally through the counties. So the resources are fantastic. The grant program, very easy. We were a grant recipient, so that was very helpful to us. I'm of Indian background, so going to India was something that I was interested in. I found many roadblocks when I got there, just due to the way the country is set up, the way things work over there. Being an outsider in the country is something you also need to consider. So I would say focus your energy on the service or the consulting aspect that you're most interested in. Use the resources, the meetings from the Department of Commerce, Maryland DBED, the county, to set up meetings. We had about 13 to 14 meetings that were set up with different companies in India who were somewhat in the environmental field. That allowed us not only to investigate what options we had over there for our business of waste management, but it also encouraged us and gave us other ideas for other types of business work that we could do over there. Okay, so maintain focus, go into international trade with a single mindset of really what you want to do versus finding 15 or 20 different things to do. So that's my suggestion, focus.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I wanted to add to that that we are very focused. We're a niche company. We do audiovisual consulting. And we went overseas at first because our domestic clients took us there when the economy wasn't doing so well here. They were building hotels and other buildings over there, and so our expertise went over there with them. And we've been fortunate to work on some projects in India with some hotel companies, and we haven't gone to China or other places. We've done the Middle East. It's been a slow growth since 2008, and as you said, you really have to focus on what it is that you want to accomplish to have the services that they offer best help you, and have a good strategy in place before you go over there, because there are so many nuances and differences in the way they do business. And from our perspective, even like the audio-visual design and the construction process is different. So even the designs that we send over there, they don't get implemented the same way. So we're trying to develop new processes and put people on the ground there that we didn't think we had to, because we're a consulting company, right? So we do video conferences at 5 a.m. or whatever. We're used to doing that all the time for staying connected, but we didn't know that we would have to have resources on the ground. So now we're trying to find out how to successfully achieve that. And of course, we're going to work with everybody that we can to accomplish that. And our company is going to go on the mission that the Montgomery County is offering to India this November. So we hope to have some meetings like you did when you went over there with different companies that we may be able to partner with and work with, so that we can actually have a better service there, just like we have here, which we don't have now.
Yeah, the meetings were fantastic, because when you had your meetings with these different companies, they brought forth ideas and said, hey, I know this person. Let me see if I can set up a meeting with you, with them. So you got more meetings.
Right.
So that's the key.
That's what we're hoping to do, network on the ground and with your support. And I think it'll be a great way to find out how to accomplish that goal of getting people there to partner with. And just learning, because I mean, Jeff, who's the one that founded Electromedia, the cultures are so different. You have to be very respectful, and the time frames are just so different that you really have to invest time and focus on going over there because it doesn't operate like it does here, and you have to have the patience to say, all right, do I want to deliver the same service here that I deliver there that I deliver here? Okay, how do I accomplish that? And it takes years. And as your company, you said, we were talking before, his company went into China in 2003, I think you said. And so, you know, it just takes time. We started in 2008, but the sources of help, we're so lucky to be here in Montgomery County, I swear, because they have everything available. I mean, you just Google, you want this? Okay, fine. You get the name of somebody and you call them and they're like, okay, what can I do for you? I'm like, great. So, thank you.
And, you know, we found sort of combining those two thoughts of the focus side and understanding is having an appropriate plan of what you want to do in those markets. Sort of carrying on her point, we have products here domestically that we sell to our clients. You have to understand what you want to sell in those foreign markets and how to best use the resources that you have, because they might not understand even terminology-wise what you're selling. You think that it's a given that when you say management consulting, that means one thing. To the international clients, it might mean something totally different and something that they're not really interested in purchasing or providing or using service providers to help them with. So really understand what you're selling. I think having a plan is the most effective tool that we've understood. We have been doing international work at WTS International for you know, a little over 13 years now, you know, coming on total design work, not just in China where we initially put a lot of our focus, but all along that time, we knew that there was a market, that there was growth opportunities there, so we sort of entered slowly. And then from that point, we've utilized almost every single one of the programs that Jessica talked about in some capacity or another. The stipend that we've received for the grant program, we've participated in trade missions. A lot of this is legwork or research time. So in addition to, you know, part of that planning is taking the time to understand what market you're getting into, expending a little resources and investing your time and money into learning about what you're going to enter into, so that the plan that you have is clear, concise. You've had it vetted through different departments that offer these resources. We've participated in other programs where it was a 3-month brainstorming session on developing an international marketing plan for a specific country, all provided through the state of Maryland. These are activities that were very low cost for us, but it helped us really hone in. So after 10 years, we've had success over that entire time in different, you know, benchmarks, if you will. Maybe not all monetarily, but now after utilizing the resources, we really have the plan, which has allowed us to focus. You know, you have to put a little bit of time and energy ahead of time to make sure that when you actually are ready to pull the trigger and deliver, that you have the right steps in place. Because when you scramble to fill back mistakes or take steps backwards, that really puts more stress and problems on your plan than if you just spend the initial time ahead of time to say, okay, I know if this happens, here's the direction we're going to take. And it just allows you to enter with more confidence, I think, in what you're doing internationally.
Now, John, just to your point, because you mentioned a keyword, success. You mentioned China, you mentioned success, and then you sort of slid in this not monetarily. So I'd like for you to explain in a little more detail, like how do you measure success when you're building internationally?
So I think for WTS, the first success we had was knowing that we had the information. I think sometimes that can be not looked at with enough importance, but when you're, for instance, one of our main focuses right now is doing business in China. And there are so many different regulations, as there are here in the United States, about, you know, how you set your business up, what's appropriate, what steps do you take? Do you start a branch office? Do you have to create a whole new entity in that foreign country? Getting the right relationships in place to where you can ask the right questions. It's not always feasible for a startup or a small business to spend huge amounts of money on attorney's fees or developing this sort of in-country research to know how to proceed. But that's where the state programs can really help. There's something called the District Export Council that helps tremendously with free advice. They have the best business leaders in the state of Maryland. They get together for regular programs and events, much like what you're attending today. There's attorneys, resources, people have been doing business over in those countries for 20 or 30 years that just simple conversations can point you in the right direction, offer you a little general guidance. And I think our first success was understanding the market. Okay, what is the compliance structure? That was a win for us. We knew that, okay, we can now estimate the cost. We know what it's going to take. We know that we're not going to get kicked out of the country for not doing the compliance side right and then be barred from the market altogether. So that's like the first non-monetary success, is really understanding what you're getting into and what the regulatory environment will be in that country.
Okay, awesome. And then if I could just pass it back to Shobana, because you mentioned roadblocks. And so what are some of the common challenges or roadblocks that you've encountered as you've grown internationally?
Sure. Even as an Indian American, language was a roadblock in India. You know, I can speak Hindi, but when I went over there, I had folks from the state of Maryland and also the Department of Commerce programs that accompanied my company to the meetings. I would speak in Hindi, but the person I was speaking with, he knew I wasn't from India. So right off the bat, I was a foreigner, okay? So language is one. Logistics is another roadblock. In a business like ours, where do you find land to build a recycling facility? How do you purchase the trucks? How do you get the local labor unions to allow you to run your business, to do the recycling and the collections of the waste when there are already folks over there doing those types of activities? So you're honing in on their work, their livelihood. Some of the things that helped us, though, the Department of Commerce, they have offices over there where people from India were in India ready to help us. So that was something that helped us combat the language barrier, the logistical barrier, the financial barriers. And I do agree with John, having a plan is very important, because if you have the plan, you can stay focused, and in your plan, maybe you have addressed how you're going to deal with language, logistics, finances, money conversions, all sorts of things like that.
And just to follow up on that point as well, talking about local presence in the country, WTS, we provide a whole different scope of services depending on the client needs, but one of our strong areas is technical design services. So by and large, it's all provided here from the United States and just delivered to the client. So it's not really doing business in the country per se, whereas she was describing she has infrastructure needs to set up. One of the resources, again, that we found through the state of Maryland and also the federal government side is vetting these partners or people that we're considering doing business with or having relationships in the country. And also programs. When we first started in 2003, there was something called the Maryland Center for China. This organization is run through the state of Maryland. I don't think it's quite the same structure as it was when it first started, but this organization helped us source people in country that had been vetted through their process that they trusted, that could then help us get local understanding of markets, help be present at business meetings with international clients that, like I said, me walking through the door and sitting down with a Chinese developer is a lot different than having a native Chinese person who is there that represents our interests, that's not necessarily an employee of ours, but that is there to act as a liaison or to help facilitate the meeting. And again, it's the relationships that you've built. Having a presence on the ground is extremely important, and that's also where some of the state and federal resources can come in and help a lot.
Now, Julie, what are some of the roadblocks or challenges? I know Shobana mentioned, logistics and language. Are there additional ones that your company has faced?
Language is a big one, and just contracts and the way people deal with contracts and expectations. They're written differently, even though we get counsel from in-country legal folks. Sometimes it's, the contracts aren't working like they're written, so you have to tweak them. Also, finding out, we're just finding this out as we go, because we, like your company, John, deliver design drawings to somebody over there. We don't really have to have somebody over there, we thought. But as we're doing this, we're realizing that, oh yes, we do, because our drawings are dealt with differently there than they're dealt with here. So there needs to be a spokesperson translating our drawings to the other person who's on the construction site. So we didn't anticipate that we would need a lot of folks over there. Maybe we can find them in country, we don't know, but it's going to take a couple of years for us to train a person, even if we find them in country, to understand the way that I mean, not that we have to be perfectionists, but building a building, right? You've got to do it right, right? Or you're taking more money to fix it later, and that's really what we've done a lot of there. People, actually, they heard about us through domestic trade shows, and they invited us over there to look at what was already built, and there's a lot of issues. So then they want us to help them with the drawings, and so we're kind of going down that road, but there's still issues. So you have to have patience, and it's a fun process. It's really great, and it can be done, and we're definitely wanting to go into India and China and other places overseas. But you just have to have the patience and the focus and realize that there are going to be things that come up that you don't expect at all, and so just go with the flow and continue your focus and use the resources. Because when we're having difficulty, we always feel like we have a personal backup team, and that's really nice. They can help you, mediate something that you didn't think you would be involved with, and they're advocating for you, so to speak. So it's really nice to feel like you've got that support back at home for what you're trying to accomplish over there. Yeah, and I really commend the state and government in the county for helping in that regard. We're really lucky.
Awesome. And so with that, Jessica and Antoine, how have you all sort of adapted, or how are you going to be adapting your programs over time to sort of meet the changing needs of the businesses that you are supporting?
Take the first stab at it. And first, I just want to say that I kind of want to give a high five to Jessica, but we're sitting too close to one another because, like Julie, John, and Shavana, all I think speak to the success that we envision for all of the businesses that our various departments and agencies work with. So thank you for the kind words, one, and congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
Specifically, we at the Department of Commerce sort of manage at International Trade Administration. We manage this international network of trade professionals, and I think some of the assistance they're talking about in terms of market intelligence, helping you figure out the best market for your particular service or product. Your commercial diplomacy, helping you if you run into an issue in country, be it a legal one or any type of non-tariff barrier. You might have a load stuck in customs, what have you. General trade counseling and business-to-business matchmaking. So helping you find that right partner or market entry strategy. It may be that you need to put programmers on the ground in a particular country. It may be that you need a foreign buyer or distributor to enter in a joint venture with. But these are all things that our individual counselors, both here in the United States through one of our export assistance centers at Commerce or at the Maryland Department, can help businesses with. And then obviously, our the Department of Commerce at the federal level, we are blessed that we've got this incredible international footprint that help you in country as well, be it with translation services or managing those individual business-to-business engagements. So that's sort of at the core of what we do. How we're really changing it, I'll say a couple of ways. One, trying to better orient our product and service offerings to the emerging and innovative industries. And I think Montgomery County is a great sort of test model for that approach. Increasingly, we see the U.S. economy being more service-based. Most of our businesses now don't necessarily create a product or widget to put on a train and manage a logistical movement across the world, but it's intellectual property and capital, and trying to help businesses figure out, one, how to leverage that and grow globally, but also how to protect that property once they've entered these markets. So that's one of the ways, at least from a policy perspective, that we've sort of changed and are really looking to work with and doing a lot more listening to businesses to figure out what it is they need in the emerging economy. And the second, there's a growing recognition that, small and medium-sized businesses, as much as they're talking about the information gap in closing it and all of the various resources, tools, information that's available for free or at the click of a mouse, most businesses don't have time to go do that research. They are busy running their company. As Congressman Delaney mentioned earlier, from 8:30 to 9:15, it's just like, it's a fire drill every day. So what we've tried to also do, in addition to sort of this policy shift towards more support for service-based businesses, is also meet businesses where they reside and bring more of that intellectual international information, market intelligence, commercial diplomacy to bear locally. So bringing more of our foreign trade staff back here to the U.S. for trade events, be it business-to-business engagements at trade shows in Las Vegas or around the country, or at our Discover Global Market series, which we're putting on with our district export council members, what I think were mentioned earlier, around the country, to help U.S. businesses to bring down the cost of finding out whether or not there's a good market for your good or service abroad. So being able to meet with those commercial counselors back here in the United States, we found is having a business take maybe half a day at forums like this to learn, we're finding is more beneficial to them in the long run. Because what we're learning is at that early stage, information is the most powerful tool we can leverage for these businesses. So cutting down the cost of them acquiring that information, maybe it's a domestic airline ticket and not an international one, we're realizing is the way to go. So we're trying to bring more of that capacity back here to meet businesses here in the United States.
Awesome.
And we've been trying to think of ways to adapt our programs a little bit more, both towards small businesses and towards the shift we're seeing as well in terms of what companies need. So first of all, our grant program I mentioned, in the past we've had some qualifications on that in order to become qualified to apply that we've actually removed. Just in the past year we took off a requirement that companies be in business for 1 year, because we had a lot of brand new entrepreneurs coming to us that were planning their company to be export oriented from the beginning. So we've decided to take that one off. We also in the past have had profitability requirements, but specifically because of the innovative types of businesses we have here in the state in biotechnology or in cyber that require a huge amount of investment in the very early years, sometimes for many years, companies just don't always have that profitability that they can put on a statement. And so we've decided to take that one off so as to further encourage these companies to still pursue exporting. So those are a couple very tangible things that we've done. We've also seen a shift towards more interest in developing markets versus the markets that companies exported to more frequently in the past, perhaps Europe, but we're seeing, for example, we're seeing more interest in the Middle East, in Africa, in Latin America, in Asia. And so we've been doing a few things to try and bring more of those resources to our companies, such as putting together partnerships with different business associations that are located in those countries to try and encourage them to bring delegations to Maryland so that our companies don't have to travel, but we can try and bring them to our companies. Identifying new trade shows for the state to explore and bring some companies with us to at a subsidized cost to the companies. We have some that we've gone to on a regular basis, but for example, just in the past couple of years, we started attending Arab Health, which is the second largest health and bio show in the world, I believe, after Medica, which is in Europe, which we did for many years, but now looking into one in a developing market. And we've also opened new offices. We opened our office in the UAE and in Africa, both in the past 2 years. And Brazil, I think, is also fairly recent, 2 or 3 years. So we're trying to address those needs companies have as well. And of course, working with our partners and seeking more partnerships, like I said, with chambers or with business associations. We already have a great partnership with the federal government and with local governments, but even expanding more into local government as well. I actually come out to Montgomery County about once a month to try and meet with companies, because our office is in Baltimore, so try and save everybody the drive and make it a little easier for you to meet with, kind of hit 2 birds with 1 stone, if you will. You can meet the county representative at the same time you meet with me, and actually I know the county also brings in representatives from the U.S. Export Assistance Center, which is also based in Baltimore. So, sometimes you can meet with all 3 levels of government in one day and get all the information you need in a 1-hour meeting. So those are some of the things we've done to try and address the needs of small businesses here in Montgomery County.
Awesome. And as you all think of questions, if you'd like to just make your way to the mic, and we can start taking some questions from you all as the studio audience as well. One of the things that I want to double back to, Jessica, is the point that you made with regard to Africa. We know, lots of countries inside of Africa, and it's a continent that's just rich with resources, and sometimes overlooked in terms of when you think of international trade. And so to you and Antoine, I would love to just get a better sense of, are there certain countries inside of Africa that are more responsive or have lower barriers of entry for the small business community to do work with?
I can note a couple things. Maybe we'll go back and forth. So yes, Africa is a continent, not a country. And so there are many different markets in Africa. However, luckily, I'm actually seeing the companies are coming to me, and that's where I'm focusing my demand is based on where the companies are already seeing opportunity. To that end, I will say that where I'm seeing the most interest and therefore we've been focusing our efforts as well, do tend to be, probably because of language issues, more the English-speaking countries. It's a little bit easier, I think, for companies, American companies, to go into. There's less of the established relationship with, let's say, French companies that are already in there. There may be more English-speaking or American other companies in there for our companies to partner with. And we did base our Africa office out of Nigeria, in part because of the huge opportunities there. I think it recently surpassed South Africa as the largest economy or fastest growing economy. I don't remember the exact statistic, but in Africa. And so our office is based there, but we also cover a number of other countries, and other ones, for example, Ghana is one that there's a lot of interest in part because their business regulations, et cetera, they're a little more stable and easy to do work in. There's a number of American companies already doing work there. Those are a couple that come to mind, but
I'd also mirror Jessica's comments. Just in this last budget year, we have dramatically increased the Department of Commerce's commercial footprint in sub-Saharan Africa, and where we're seeing companies compete, and at the very least, we're starting to develop that pipeline of business back into our, obviously, South Africa, really developed country on the continent, but Kenya, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Tanzania, and Ghana are all growing at a much faster clip than countries and economies around the world. And one of the other things we know is that African business owners and heads of state are looking for Americans. They're interested in doing business with U.S. companies. And still the world over, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, there is a high quality and standards are really still associated with American goods and services. And I think that we've got to take better advantage of that. So regardless of what type of business you're in, whether you're a service-based industry, consumer goods, oil and gas, energy, IT, this is a part of the world that is quickly growing. They've got folks coming into the middle class by the thousand every day, and they need everything. And we are well positioned, both geographically and in terms of your innovative industry to grow along with them. So I just think, we have at the Department of Commerce a Doing Business in Africa campaign with the website off of, I think it's export.gov/Africa, where you can find out all about our both, geographic footprint and offices, commercial consulates, commercial specialists in sub-Saharan Africa, but also about some of the trade promotion programs and events occurring here in the United States that would help give you a window into which African markets would be most competitive for you and your particular good or service. So I encourage people to visit export.gov/Africa, or still working with your business counselor at either SBA, the Maryland Department, or what have you, because we're also, like I said, working in concert. But the subcontinent represents incredible opportunities for U.S. businesses, regardless of your industry or area of expertise. So I encourage you to be exploring Africa. Now, yeah, it is a longer development period for business, just like any other foreign or developing market. But it's a marketplace that we avoid or sort of go around at our own risk and peril, because, like I said, it will represent the fastest growing part of the global economy for the next decade.
And I wanted to mention just one more thing that the commercial service offers is country commercial guides. I actually just pulled for a company I was working with just last week because Africa is a continent, not a country, and we were trying to figure out which market should they consider entering first. So we had a discussion, and I got a little bit of a sense of what they were looking for and what was important to them in a market. Selected a few countries and was able to pull these country commercial guides for those specific countries that are put together by the Department of Commerce. And by looking through those, you can see by sector, what's it like doing business there? How might you structure your business? And what sectors are there a great opportunity in? And in looking at those, even just skimming over, a few minutes, you can see that, oh, okay, in this country, your product, they have a really strong local market for that product. So that might not be where you want to enter first. This one, they really need it, and it came out there. So and the easiest way to search for those is just country commercial guide and the country or countries you're looking for, and those come right up. And so that's a great resource that you can just go home and pull up right away. So.
Awesome. And so, Antoine, just because I saw your face sort of light up in terms of, just what's taking place in Africa and the economy there, what is the Department of Commerce doing to create sort of the next wave of U.S. exporters? And is Africa, it sounds like Africa is a big piece of that, but are there other countries or continents, for that matter, where you're expending a lot of resources?
We are seeing both commercial growth and again our infrastructure, our foreign infrastructure is growing both in sub-Saharan Africa and Asia, particularly Southeastern Asian countries. Again, these are emerging economies, and you'll see, and there's been a lot of talk these last few months about a couple of big trade agreements that are in the offing. One is a Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is meant to help us with opening more doors for business in those countries in the Asian Rim. So whether or not you're talking about Malaysia, the Philippines, obviously South Korea, where we already have a vibrant trade agreement. A lot of companies seeing growth in the Singapore economy. There are a lot of partner countries, trading partner countries in the Pacific Rim that we see a lot of opportunities in. And one of the things we try and encourage businesses to do, and I know John mentioned specifically their market entry strategy for a big market like China, which is attractive. But what we're noticing is there are a lot more sort of fertile and immediate opportunities for U.S. businesses in some of the neighboring countries, particularly for smaller businesses that aren't as well developed and can't weather the storm that is represented by entering a big and dynamic market like China. So I'd encourage businesses to look both at our current FTA countries, but also other neighboring countries, in the Pacific Rim, because many of those also represent excellent opportunities for U.S.-based small and medium-sized enterprises.
Awesome, thank you.
He mentioned initially our plan in China, and directly through working with their programs is why we didn't initially go right into China. We went to Hong Kong instead as our initial starting point for Asia Pacific as a general category. China is our long-term plan because of the growth opportunities for our business, but we've seen rapid growth in Malaysia, Thailand, South Korea. These are all areas because instead of just fully investing into China, which may have not provided the best platform, again, we were part of the Export Tech market plan analysis, and our CEO, everyone was, China's where we want to focus, but through doing that plan, we realized, we'll do this first. China can still be your long-term goal, but you won't pass up these other opportunities, and you're actually be in a nimble space to really take advantage of those other countries. Like he mentioned, Singapore and South Korea specifically are areas where there's a lot in our industry of leisure development, where we're finding a lot of contracts that we didn't even expect just by nature of being over there and building relationships on our ultimate plan, because they gave us the right direction. It took our own research as well to make sure that it was what we wanted to do, but that focus really helped us as a platform to take advantage of these other markets too. So again, sort of touting the benefit of the resource there, but it's really directly led to our ability to quickly adapt and chase those other countries. And Hong Kong's a very low regulatory environment, and so are some of those other Asia Pacific countries.
Awesome. So again, if you all have any questions, feel free to come up and ask. But as we wind down these last, after you, sir.
Yes, my name is Ed Simon, owner, founder of Vigor Innovative Systems and Solution. I have a small startup company located in Damascus, Maryland, right here in Montgomery County. One question for the panel. as we look at emerging markets, there seemed to be very little focus on South America. I know you did mention Brazil. So can you kind of elaborate a little bit on why isn't there more focus? And if so, what are some of the roadblocks that may be preventing us from having a greater focus on South America? Thank you.
You raise a good point, Mr. Simon, and one of the things that I think not just the Obama administration, but I think all of our economic development partners at the state, federal, and local level realizes what an untapped opportunity a lot of our southern hemisphere trading partners in the western hemisphere, that is specifically, we're potentially missing out on. As a response to that, we recently launched what we're calling the Look South campaign, which is meant to help launch U.S. businesses into some of those Central American and South American countries by virtue mostly of their experience doing work in some of our FTA partners, Mexico being chief amongst them, which we do have. It's, Mexico and Canada are our two largest trading partners by and large. And what we've realized is that because there are well-worn trading paths within those countries, and those help set U.S. businesses up to do more work in Colombia, another free trade partner, in Brazil, one of those huge markets. But we do recognize that there's a lot more we can be doing, particularly in Central America. The CAFTA Dominican Republic Free Trade Agreement's been in force for a few years now. But for whatever reason, we've had a lot of U.S. businesses that look across the Pacific and Atlantic before they look right here in our own neck of the woods. So I commend and applaud you for looking in South and Central America, and it's something that I know that we as a department are investing a lot of time and energy on, both at the policy level in trying to better refine our free trade agreements to make those markets more attractive for U.S. businesses, but also all of our sort of trade promotion activities and events here are more focused around that. Just recently, we wrapped what we call our Trade Winds, Trade Winds, business conference and SME trade mission to Bogota, where we did a lot of, we took over 100 U.S. firms, many of which from here in the Mid-Atlantic and Maryland and Virginia specifically, down to Bogota, and we're hoping we'll see a lot of those businesses over the course of the next couple of months come back with real opportunities, and therefore be up on a panel like this in the next few weeks and months, encouraging more of our businesses to do the same. So appreciate the comment, and again, I'd say it again, export.gov / doing business in Africa, and/or Trade Winds are another place you'll see where we're working with U.S. businesses to both leverage the North American platform as an operating place where we're both seeing businesses that do well in Canada and Mexico, pushing them into those South and Central American markets. Because again, we feel like if you're able to crack those, which are a little easier to get into, then the cost of doing business, and/or you'll probably realize a lot of the same trading partners and rules and regs that you'll have to use to crack those Central and South American markets as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you. We've come to the end of this particular session. Time flies when you're having fun, right? So Antoine, Jessica, Julie, John, Shabana, thank you all so much for taking time to just spend with us to share your experience and expertise. They'll be available after the event to exchange contact information, so be sure to visit the websites, check into the resources that they provided, and we look forward to seeing you all overseas.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us.